Hey friends, this is the Miss Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. Today we're going to make Jamie Oliver's, Bonkers Bread and Butter Panatone Pudding Tart. Say that 5 times real quick. I have to apologize in advance. This is not the exact recipe, and I have to read this, for Jamie Oliver's Bonkers Bread and Butter Panatone Pudding Tart, because I don't have a tart pan, I don't have Demerara sugar. I'm going to make do with what I have. I don't have good quality 70% cocoa chocolate. I have chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate chips. But you know what? I think it's going to be okay. What I'm using for this simple recipe is about a 1/4 cup of butter, 1 vanilla bean pod. Thank you, Noreen. I've got half and half cream. His recipe calls for heavy cream or double cream and then whole milk. So I figure half and half is, well, half and half. I don't have any Demerara sugar and castor sugar. I just have organic cane sugar, and that's what we're going to use. I'm going to use semi-sweet chocolate chips and my homemade Panatone, and of course, fresh, farm fresh eggs. I think I covered everything, and the orange marmalade. Let's get started. Okay, first and foremost, like I said, I don't have a loose bottom tart tin, so I'm just using a pie plate. I'm sure I will be forgiven. And I'm just lightly buttering it. And then I'm going to shake some of my sugar. Now this is where Jamie likes to do a combination of sugars for texture, but I'm just going to lightly coat the bottom here with my organic cane sugar. And we're going to just pat that around. Looks like there's a bit of instant coffee in there. I'm sure it'll be fine. We're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 180 degrees Celsius, or gas mark 4 if you're in the UK. Now we're going to take our homemade Panatone, and oh, I just love it. Every time when you take it out of the wrapper, out of the can, you can smell the citrus. We are going to cut the bottom off of this to use as the bottom of our bread pudding. And now I just cut another slice. It is a bread pudding, so, and I'm going to put some slices. Oh, the smells so good just by itself. All around the outside of my bottom here, so that we can make it like a pie shell. Oh, I'm gonna have a bite of this. Big chunks of fruit in there. That's good. You know what it tastes like, folks? It tastes like a hot cross bun. I'm just going to smash this all in here. Okay, so there's our shell ready. I'm just going to take my vanilla bean pod, and I'm going to open it very, very carefully and scrape out the vanilla bean from inside the pod. I'm just going to drop it in this pot. Folks, if you don't have a vanilla bean, go ahead and use some vanilla, but do yourself a favor. Use real vanilla. Don't use the store-bought beaver anal gland stuff. Okay? So now we're going to put our 2 tablespoons of butter in here. 2½ cups of half and half, or 1¼ cup each of heavy cream and whole milk. But half and half is just what it says. It's half and half. Now we're just going to put this on to simmer at medium heat, and in a bowl we're going to break up our 5 eggs, and we're going to add our 1/2 cup of sugar. Looks about right. Then we're going to whisk. Now I have a whole section of this recipe missing, but what we're going to do is we're just going to bring this to a simmer, just basically till the butter melts and you can smell the vanilla. You want it hot but not boiling. Now you don't need a strainer if you are using vanilla, but we're using a vanilla bean pod, so I am going to be straining this. And I'm making a heck of a mess. Just going to put a strainer here. I want the vanilla beans, the bean seeds to come through. I just don't want the pods. This smells really good. Now I'm going to take some of this hot cream and butter and drop it in there. And we're just going to whisk this in because we don't want to cook the eggs. We just want them to be a creamy custardy. So you don't want your milk boiling because you don't want it to cook your eggs. There we go. Now that I've strained out the vanilla pods, I'm going to put this back on the burner, but it's off. The burner is just hot. We want this to cook just enough to thicken a bit, so like on minimum. We don't want scrambled eggs. We want custard. And real custard is just cream and sugar and eggs and butter. Okay, it's starting to thicken nicely. See how it's going in a stream? We're going to take it off the heat. We're going to build our bread pudding. All right. First, we're going to take half of our custard mixture and we are just going to kind of drench the bottom. I got to continue to stir because it's thickening on the bottom here. We're going to drench the bottom of our dish and our panettone bread. Now, I'm going to sprinkle some semi-sweet chocolate chips. You really don't want this to be overly sweet. And yes, Mr. Jamie Oliver, these are good quality chocolate chips. Now we're going to take some of our marmalade, because when you smell this panettone bread that you've made, you're going to smell the citrus as soon as you unwrap it. We're just going to drop some globs of orange marmalade. Now, if you think this is odd, folks, think about Terry's chocolate oranges, or those chocolate oranges you get at Christmas time. Chocolate and orange go wonderful together. And don't be stingy. Now you're going to want some ice cream or some whipped cream. We're going to do whipped cream. Isn't that lovely? Look at that. Now, we're going to take another piece of our panettone and we're just going to kind of chunk it up all over the place. This is a really festive treat. And you want to kind of smush it down in there. Just make sure we want to cover up the chocolate and the marmalade. And I may be putting this on a cookie sheet before I put it in the oven because it just looks, I don't know, looks pretty heavy duty. Now we'll take the last of our custard and carefully pour it all over the bread, especially the bread that you just put on there. All right, I'm just going to dump the rest into the center. And we are going to bake this in the 350-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes. All right, our timer has gone off. Oh my gosh, and I wish you could smell it. Now, I am going to let this rest for about 10 minutes so it can soak up all that juice, and then we can cut into it and have it with some whipped cream. We'll see you in a bit. Now, I think I should have cooked my custard a little thicker before putting it in the oven, but
I want my dessert.
Now.
Papa has spoken.
Papa has spoken.
so I can watch my Christmas story and go to bed.
Miracle on 34th Street. Oh,
That looks
would
pretty
you
tasty.
look at that? All right, Papa. Give me the whipped cream. Can you smell that? And the you can smell the vanilla, the real vanilla. There you go.
No, I don't bloody well think so. Load her up. There we go.
In other words, give them the whole can.
Excellent.
All right. Careful, it's hot.
Lots of different flavors.
This is the Miss Wolfie from Our Half Acre Homestead saying, Mr. Jamie Oliver, we may have tweaked it a little bit, but it got a thumbs up from Papa. Merry Christmas.